EV manufacturers, beware. A new kid is on the block. Canadian electric car parts manufacturer Magna has recently revealed the all-new secret weapon they've been working on, their new high RPM electric motor. This new motor promises a lightweight package, double the power, and significantly better efficiency compared to most other motors currently in use. First, we need to introduce you to Magna. This company might seem unfamiliar to you. However, Magna is one of the most important and largest vehicle parts manufacturers in the world. It is consistently ranked as one of the biggest companies in Canada overall. They provide parts and facilities to many automotive companies all over the world, and they've been doing it for decades now. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Ford are only a few that still source their parts from Magna to this day. With the EV revolution starting, Magna began heavily investing in making crucial components for EVs, expecting this would allow them to become one of the most prominent EV parts manufacturers and help them fully transition into a new era. This turned out to be a good call, as Magna is currently one of the automotive giants when it comes to electrical components in vehicles. Various famous manufacturers tend to source these parts from the company. For example, mirror controls, seating electrics, and other electronic peripherals for BMW are mostly done by Magna. In addition to that, Ford and Volkswagen both rely on Magna for their EV components, and Mercedes EVs use entire powertrains developed by Magna. However, the biggest and most interesting part about Magna is the fact that Jaguar has put them fully in control over two of their vehicles, the F-Pace and the I-Pace. That's how incredibly big and important this seemingly unknown company is. One of their greatest achievements was their well-known powertrain, the Magna eDrive. The Magna eDrive, which was initially developed in the 2010s, has been a game changer for the world of EVs. This completely new and radical powertrain promised a massive step forward in terms of potency, efficiency, and, above all else, ease of manufacturing. One of the key reasons companies like Stellantis, Tata, Mercedes, and many others go to Magna to produce their EVs is the fact that the eDrive is one of the easiest EV systems to install in a vehicle, be it an EV or a hybrid. For example, the Jaguar I-Pace that we previously mentioned uses two complete eDrive systems, as well as power electronics and integrated drive units, meaning that this entire platform is built from the ground up using only Magna's parts. This is also true for the new Fisker Ocean, which uses its powertrain and is also made entirely by Magna. Some vehicles like the Volkswagen ID.4 are built from the ground up too. However, unlike the previous two, this one was developed by Volkswagen themselves, and they partially use the eDrive system, showing how easily it can be integrated with vehicles that weren't specifically designed for it. The BMW iX3, on the other hand, uses the eDrive system too, albeit the platform itself is developed, or shall we say adapted, from the regular X3, showing that the eDrive is a powertrain that can be used without any restraints. Apart from this, Stellantis, Rivian, Hyundai, and various new manufacturers and startups tend to rely more or less on Magna in their eDrive system. However, that potency was brought to an even greater position earlier this year with the introduction of Magna's new electric motor. Magna's previous electric motor was regarded as one of the better ones on the market. With 400 volts, a remarkable 91% efficiency, a 2 kilowatt per kilogram ratio, and a 16,000 RPM limit, the motor was solid, but ultimately unimpressive. It's for this reason that the I-Pace isn't regarded as either the best or the worst EV out there, just well in the middle. For example, it was outfitted with two eDrive units, meaning two electric motors, which granted it a total of 400 horsepower. Not bad, but far from, say, a Tesla Model Y Performance Plus. It also had a relatively mediocre range of only 280 miles due to subpar battery management, which is something Magna is generally known to be weaker at compared to many of its rivals. That's why Magna decided to completely throw out the old design and replace it with a new, more potent motor. Magna has decided to virtually double down on the pre-existing motor and make it far more competitive than before. Also, something that many people forget to mention is the fact that the interior space, because of the noticeably more compact size, will also increase, and so will the cargo area. Are there any downsides to using this new eDrive system? Well, yes, there are. However, these issues won't be practical. Rather, they'll be far more financially problematic, if you get what we mean. You see, 800-volt powertrains similar to the new eDrive have already been used by other manufacturers. Porsche has used it in the Taycan, GMC reserved it for the Hummer EV, and Tesla currently offers it only with the Cybertruck. So essentially speaking, big 800-volt architectures tend to be far more expensive to make. This is because the electronics used, such as inverters, converters, and onboard chargers, need to handle considerably higher voltages, resulting in a far more expensive product. In addition to that, the battery packs are also more expensive, as they require adaptations that allow more robust insulation, wiring, and various new safety measures required for noticeably higher voltages. In addition, albeit not mandatory, batteries oftentimes become even bigger than before to extend the range of these vehicles, which of course results in the price growing even higher. Now, this isn't a rule, but most manufacturers tend to do so nowadays. As a result of all this, an 800-volt eDrive will be noticeably more expensive than the 400-volt eDrive, which means that this will most likely be reserved for higher-end models. Now, this might seem like a bummer to you. However, this is a fairly common practice among EV makers. Furthermore, there is also the issue of recharging the vehicle. Sure, an 800-volt system can be recharged much faster, but only if the charger allows it. And since 90% of EV models and an even greater percentage of EVs on the road in general utilize the 400-volt architecture, most chargers have been tailor-made for them. As a result, you'll hardly see the benefits most of the time, if ever. Oh, and there's also the issue of production. Sure, Magna is a big company. However, it will certainly have to convert some of their assemblies from the 400-volt eDrive to the 800-volt version, which will ultimately lower profits somewhat as the latter will be used on a somewhat smaller scale. However, all these issues are a regular occurrence for developing technologies. Heck, if you remember the early 2000s and 10s, you could barely charge your EV anywhere. And nowadays, there's a charger at every corner. Not to mention that this isn't an all-new technology like back then. It's just an evolution of an already existing technology. Building a new infrastructure from the ground up isn't necessary, just modernizing it. In addition to that, albeit more complex to make at the moment, the complexity will lower as the scale of production increases and the use of materials such as silicon carbide and gallium nitride increases. Plus, with more and more vehicles using 800-volt systems, this technology will become more and more widespread and far more commonly used than it is now. As a result of this, the price will keep dropping continuously, and this means that soon enough, most EVs will come with such a powertrain as the eDrive, with 400-volt ones being reserved for just the most affordable EVs.